So I posted this one last night, and I know the stock market, she's in swing today, and I just got one done watching Jim and Carl, and I think it's Jim, the other Jim, and they were talking about P&G and Una something whatever. It's basically one of those. It's like PNC. They have Vaseline, Klondike bar, and a bunch of other things. Now I want you to take that number into consideration about what Hubble's constant is. Think about Kathy Wood stocks for a little bit, or better yet, the CNBC SPAC in general, right? Yeah, I'm using Jim and the team and a bunch of other ones. Those are my 73 parsecs to deal with expansion, the universe, what I can't tell based on eschatology. I don't really know what happened with the Romans and the barbarians. And as you look at it, what do you see? You see a bunch of, oh well, I'm pretty sure, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure within range of error that there are a few events that happen between A to B. I'm pretty sure. I keep hearing about them. They blink in tabby stars out there, standard candles, A-type supernova. But we'll get into that here in a minute about there's subtle differences between A-type supernova and those standard candles. Right? They're actually different measurements. Now Hubble's constant is going to mark that date based on distances here, and I want you to understand what you are doing is essentially the same thing. Now, we actually use Notion to publish. Before I begin, Anton's one of my favorite ones. He's one of my favorite space-time guys. Now, why would I, on a market video like this, take a moment to bring this into the fold? Anton here, he's one of the people. It's not necessarily stock related, but this is going to cause a lot of inflation. This mathematics is going to start to run parallel against all these other calculations about A-type supernova and what happened. So we're just paralleling. We're paying Penzrel, the numbers, the graphics, the rectangle polar coordinates about the graphs, and you'll see them inside here. See if we can find a good one about. There's one in particular. Well, there's the cosmic ladder. Well, finances also have a cosmic ladder, if you will, a 63, 73 parsecs of, oh, that's what that thing is. And not only is it one of those, it has special spin mass direction to it. And if you get those calculations wrong on this very, very large scale, you're going to wind up with a lot of problems as far as, let's see if I can, yeah, here we go. As far as what the parsecs are, what calculations. Now, maybe you're using the S&P, maybe you're using the Russell 2000, or maybe you're in there that bandwidth of an aggregate of all of that, which gives me these rough types of calculations, this distance, this triangulation of how Anton's going to bring this all down. And if you listen very carefully, they are parallel in diagram.
All right, one of the hardest hit areas during this market downturn has been growth stocks, notably in the tech space. So what should be your next move? Joining us now is Gary Platt.
Let's discuss this in a little bit more detail.
Again, these are mathematicians trying to maintain themselves, which isn't bad. Everybody does it. It's easier when one's a thing. Anton's been doing this for a while. You're taking now in this information, and then you're going to apply it into the market. What's going to happen? Whether it be the space market or finances in general. I talk about it in 42 Edness. That area over there, the pack of pallets, is this photon in the back of the head, which is diverting and expanding the number of calculations that could potentially be there. However, it's still locked in the local pocket, that local cluster or void, where the density of some of these things make it the birthday cake baked in, if you will. And let's see if I can.
We've actually discussed this in one of the older videos that should be somewhere here or in the description. But in a nutshell, about 100 years ago.
Gary, what has this period been like for you?
Okay, I talk about it like, this is that electron shell. This is the fuzz. Everything's super symmetry. Hubble's going to talk about it like there's different physics in universes, right? There's over there or something like that. Well, under the sea, top of Marianas Trench, what happens to time? Here you're walking on a straight line. there might be a different composition of material inside of that. And to decipher that is something that we have to, these numbers are massive, they on time scales that are at least quantifiable here. The math is identically as hard while trying to graph it. You got to do the research element. You got to crack open the hardware. Get in there, do research elements of IH, Hubble constant, inside of that system. Be Planck's shortest distance about some diagram in this model, and that's going to rapidly reduce the inflation inside of there. Gresham's law, this is going to be a recession based on the material when all O-type stars or standard candles have to be reevaluated. Was the calc up to date, or were we just homogenizing the value across the board, which makes for an anomaly, an expansion? Now, the rip away on this is people are going to increase in money, right? They're going to say that that's what that is, and it has this exponential nature to it. Now, whatever the causal speed of light is here, 1 over c, right, is just 1 over c. We're going to cross multiply this out, do the PRT. Is the value in there for it to do that? And you notice that this entropy has a lot of holes in the chessboard, let's say, still left today, not just necessarily because they don't exist, because the expansion of the necessary need to fill it in with some kind of IH that applies the value to this will eventually mass you out. Now, that in itself, here we sit, this guy sits, everybody sits here. I don't want to get too big with you, but this will stretch you out. This will redshift you in cases. You'll be looking at somebody, and the blinkety-winkities ain't doing what the megaparsecs say they're supposed to be doing, so you operate geodesically. You lens around what should be a up or down situation, potentially, as far as the spin mass direction, or quarks, or spins on those, and those should make correlatable sense to you. But I would bet money that some people get just as confused here or have a specialty in this because they're not necessarily applying the value. That's the nature of calculations. You jump, Jupiter's going to change its mass. Right? This is what the nature of inflation is. It's Elon talking about nuking Mars and never bringing up fog. Fog is no longer here. The concept of the science of nuking Mars has this inflative nature to it of who's in it now, what are they doing, where is the science at. These are calculations that are easily sectorally checked, easy to look up, but don't necessarily exist in an FMA way, first law of motion. It is.
It was discovered that the universe seems to be accelerating its expansion.
It is, but it's not. And again, you have to look at some of those constants. Remember that one galaxy 13 billion away? Some PNC, whatever, tether would be great. That's way away. And early formations of the galaxy on local numbers say, well, unless there's a great collapse in some way, you'd see a new star in the limit there. And that's not seems to be something we get. The actual science says that starts to drift away. Now look at businesses. It's marginal utilitarianism. It's the silver mind. It's only going to be good as the frame rates inside of that, and that's like getting trapped in a black hole. The kiloblog, the black hole paradox inside of this about what's going on inside of this. What is it there? Accretion disk or horizon limit about what's happening here. There's space. You're in it right now. Apply every value mathematically. If you did it, you're not going to just directly find this thing, oh, that's where the money is. You would see draws. You would see over-unders on the gold index for yesterday or today, right? The Vanguard's starting to turn over the black lines over the red. That's what the outputs represent. In a local galaxy over here, FMA all day. Because the spin mass direction on this is different, or has a differential in that way, you would operate that differential based on semi-imperial mass. That's the projectile. That's how far, how fast, in average, Heisenberg, that'll go. And see, we still had a limit. I still need a sensor at that point in time. I still need to make the evaluation. And those scientific projections or goals to what those... It should be the forward projections on what that is, what's diverting from it. So when you get into Tesla, rapid rocket deceleration, alpha, Not in my house, at least. And if they can't hold a candle to it, I'll be the one that teaches it to them. I have no problem with that, but otherwise you'll get field charge. A lot of friction. Big objects, small objects moving real fast or real slow accordingly in this cosmic shooting background here. You could say that the Virgo void there is what caused all the expansion, but all the math in the great attractor here just doesn't pull down to that. When you're looking at what the great attractor here is in other systems over in Virgo, you're going to tell me something about Stonehenge and the constellations and where the position's located, the Farmer's Almanac, the Fishing Almanac, the Carpenter's Book. You know, and then you're going to get this. What we should come across, regardless of, well, I'm right, you're right, and in the meantime, the number is what it needs to be in here, because it's not accurate one way or the other. Both parties, Andromeda Paradox, the Orchard Paradox, putting down the probability. You're lined up straight in the pipes. I'm on the right or left, dependent. I can only hit a probability slit inside of there. That bullet downrange is FMA all day. If the response was FMA all day as well, I'm a ball. The mathematic may expand into what's realistic in the world, but that starts to limit entropy in many different ways, where organization and combinations of those things apply. Why comparatively the distance in its orientation from me, which is a calculation, or from when you're projecting that to be, let's say that's here, Universe Sandbox, and the calculations, GPT-3. These are expansive, and we use generalized subjects. Clicks, ticks, A's, B's, C, D, ZY, X, W, V, TSR, Q, P, NML, JK, IH, GB, EF, CBA. It's an algorithm. It's something that processes out the clicks and ticks in such a way that all the crypto works, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're sharing quadrants now. We're taking rectangle and changing it to polar coordinates to either reduce the calculation, somebody comes at you with some Hubble constant, I'll put you down, or that there was no rectangle coordinate because the inversion under the calc left one of those fields open. Do I say you have to use astrophysics? No. You would actually find out that there are many calculations inside of it that run so parallelly close to what's happening in there, orbitals, geodesics, diagrams, and so on and so forth, that you would find out the neurology inside here basically makes this conversation neural net or an MRI machine. And that's something you have to get ready for about the time dilation of, you're in a black hole right now, essentially. You're falling past the kilobog limit inside here, but there's actually probably still neutron star in there. Actually, when you apply the Oort cloud to the orbitals of the solar system around us here, it may not be a planet in itself, but if you remove one of the planets, the timelines on Sandbox change radically. So we're in a world we may not know all the calculations in the solar system, even out here at 22, or all the factors inside of this. But it doesn't add up when I don't see fucking diagrams like that. Thank you, Anton. You're a wonderful person. So you would kind of say,
with at least 40 different so-called